Welcome to another episode of Start, Grow and Monetize Your Podcast with me, Alex Chisnall, and him,
James Burtt. Wow, you don't even say my name.
Say my name.
No. We're not doing that. We're not having sing-alongs.
We haven't eaten anything either.
No, exactly. So you calm down on the crazy, Chisnall.
Okay.
Calm down on the crazy.
All right. So welcome to another episode. We are going to be talking today solo episodes versus guest episodes. We're going to talk you through the pros and the cons of each. If you'd like to learn more about all of these things that we're talking about, we now have a course called
yourpodcastcourse.com, and you can find 55 on-demand videos, cheat sheets, blueprints, guides, downloads that will walk you through the exact process that we have utilised nearly 400 times for actors, athletes, celebrities, influencers, etc. to launch globally successful podcasts.
Fantastic. So let's dive in. Solo episodes versus guest episodes. I'll start with a little anecdote.
Go on.
Okay,
I love an anecdote.
When I started my podcast, Screw It, Just Do It, it was a guest podcast. Okay, so I would interview somebody or a couple of people. On the odd occasion, 3 people, if there were 3 founders.
Wow.
Okay. Came a day where all of my guests that I'd lined up had cancelled for one reason or another. I had used...
You have that effect on people, don't you?
Yeah, I'd used all the episodes in the back catalogue that I'd had lurking there in case of emergencies, and I had nothing to broadcast that week.
Oh, such a horrible feeling. If you do a podcast, you will get to this week at least once.
You will.
In your career.
Happens to everybody, okay? So what did I do? I didn't want to skip a beat. I'd literally been going for about 9 months, I think, okay? I said, don't want to miss an episode. So I bit the bullet and I did a solo episode. So me...
How did you find it?
How did I what?
How did you find it? Did you enjoy the first time you did a solo episode?
I didn't. And I did put a lot of work into it because I literally thought,
I know.
What shall I do? I know. Let me pull out the commonalities of the 9 months of episodes that I had with my guests.
Oh, wow. You gave yourself homework.
I did, big time. But the interesting thing is, to this day, 8 years later, it's still one of the top 10 most downloaded episodes.
Is it?
Whereas I thought people would not be remotely interesting.
Yeah.
But it was, and it is. And it was, as I say, pulling out, what are the successful traits of some of the people that I've had on my podcast. Okay, so
I can see why that would do well. That's a great hook, isn't it, to get people? And you had good guests as well.
I had good guests like Lewis Howes and people like that I'd had on my podcast. Pat Flynn, people like that.
Talks about it every time. Just because I've never had Lewis Howes on my podcast.
He's your hero.
He's my podcast hero.
So what I did after that, I carried it on. So every week I did a solo episode until literally 4 years later, I talked myself to death, and I found, funnily enough, that I was talking about the same subject over and over again. I literally didn't have anything else to say.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say. 4 years of talking about how to start, grow a business, monetize a business, not a podcast. Look, I've done both of those, and they both have their pros and cons. How's it about you?
Well, I think in terms of the title, I like the title that we've gone for here. Solo versus guest. But I think the real secret sauce to a lot of podcasts is both. Don't do one or the other, because they both do serve a completely different purpose. Guest episodes are brilliant for extending the reach organically of your show. Yeah. So, for example, if you do a podcast and you post out about a podcast, that's going to get to your network of people. If you do a podcast with Lewis Howes, you always bang on about Chisnall, then if you make great clips, which you talked about in previous episodes, check 2 or 3 episodes back where we talked about repurposing content, then you can share that content with them. If you make your guest look and feel like a rock star, if you make it easily shareable, if you do it in the right way, and we've definitely talked about that in terms of the processes that your team go through in terms of creating the content. Here's the post, here's where you can get it, here's how to use it, this is the time we're going to post it. If you do all that stuff, then you're extended a reach massively of that show potentially. Plus, I also just find that I just like doing interview. I just like doing podcasts with other people. I find it more interesting than talking by yourself.
Same. I'm exactly the same.
First time I did a solo episode, it took me an hour to record it. It took me 2 hours to edit it, and it ended up being 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
I was like, that is a lot of work and a lot of effort. And I was somebody who'd been on the radio before, so I knew how to talk into a microphone with no one, pretending that people are listening. And it still took me ages, and I hated it. However, again, the solo podcast, I think, is super powerful. Whilst guests are great for extended reach and making very engaging content, etc., etc. I don't think there's anything more powerful than solo content. If you are a coach, consultant, expert, mentor, if you make your money in the expert economy, if you are somebody who shares knowledge or consults or gets paid for the wisdom that they've got,
you want to be that thought leader.
100%. And there's nothing better for thought leadership than a podcast.
Agreed.
And I think there's one of those things that you can, people can flip a selfie camera and talk for 60 seconds on stories and make something sound good. You could have a nicely cut together reel that makes you look like a legend. If you listen to someone talk for 15, 20, 30 minutes about a particular subject, you know that they are the expert in their thing. It's very hard to be something that you're not for that period of time.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think, with podcasting, because it's a longer format medium and because it's got an unusually powerful way of resonating with that audience, because it is a one-to-one medium, because you're getting to people when they can't be distracted. They're in the car, they're in the gym, they're on the dog walk, they're cutting the grass, wherever it may be. They're not distracted by their phone or adverts or social media. You get a real deep relationship with people. That expert authority, I think, is magnified massively. So in terms of should you do one or the other, I think really in the majority of instances you should do both. Even a show as big as Diary of a CEO, Pound in the Swear Jar, has done it. He's talked about, I think he did it about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, talked about what the journey of the podcast has been and how he's turned it into a multi-million-pound company. He did that as a solo episode.
And now he's doing panels.
Now he does panels, so he's mixed
Debates,
it up. So he's
testing it.
Testing and measuring the format.
Yeah.
So he obviously saw that the debate thing worked really well. He did it with our mutual pal, Daniel Priestley, and who's that guy?
Gary somebody
who's you can only be rich if you are rich to start with, even though he wasn't, and now he's making all of his money selling people books. I'm not a big fan of that geezer.
Me neither.
Just wanted to take a quick minute to say a big thank you for watching this podcast. If you are thinking about starting your own podcast to grow your brand or your business, then we would love to help you out. Yourpodcastcourse.com is a place where you can find 55 on-demand videos. There's trainings, there's blueprints, there's guides, there's cheat sheets, there's downloads. Everything that you need to utilize and to start your own powerful podcast is in there right now.
It's guaranteed for 7 days. So if you don't like it, we'll return your money, and we're going to start you off with a fantastic offer.
Absolutely. Just because you are consuming this podcast for a limited time only, for the first 25 people only this is going to be, we're going to give you 50% off yourpodcastcourse.com. Click the link that's in the show notes. There's information there, and it will be 50% off joining the course. As I say, we will walk you through how to start, how to grow, how to monetize your podcast. We'll talk to you about artwork, setup, names, ideal listener profiles, how to get the ideal guest, how you do the interviews, how you do the 14-day launch process, everything you need to utilize and to know to create a powerful podcast. We will tell you. We've done it 400 plus times. We have done some of the most successful podcast launches in Europe at this point in time, and the exact strategy and process that we charge tens of thousands of pounds to our agency clients for, you can get access to through yourpodcastcourse.com. 50% off for a limited time only. Click the link in the show notes now. Cheers. But that blew up the internet, didn't it? That was everywhere. It was all over LinkedIn. Obviously, that depends on the people that you're following. But you can see that had worked. So now he's done another debate. He's just done a debate with AI with three people sat around the table.
Yeah.
Scott Galloway, Prof G, is a very good example of that. He does solo podcasts. He does one-on-one podcasts with his sort of co-host. He does panels or sort of conversations. He does interview formats. They will all serve a slightly different purpose. I think the thing to bear in mind is, who is that listener who has clicked that follow, that subscribe button? Will they still get value in that thing? Mm-hmm. Now, of course, somebody might tune into Screw It, Just Do It when you relaunch in a couple of weeks, because they want to hear the story of Ray Calvin, for example, or Sir Liam Fox, whoever you're going to have on. They want to, but also you are launching a very, very exciting event for entrepreneurs here in the UK, and you maybe part of that content is going to be sharing the journey of creating that, because it's a separate business and entity. Some people who are going on, maybe they're starting an events company, maybe they're a startup founder, they will probably find massive value from those episodes more than the interviews.
Interesting, because I thought about doing a weekly LinkedIn Live with my co-founder, James Ashwood, and then repurposing that as a podcast and putting that out every week as well as we build towards the event. That could be quite interesting. Okay.
So now, again, for some people, if they're not in the event space, if they're not a startup, they might not find that interesting. So they might skip that episode on a Friday. That's fine.
Which is fine.
But it's still, if it's a business podcast in entrepreneurship, whether I'm listening to an entrepreneur being interviewed, whether I'm listening to you talk about insights of how to start up, or if I'm listening to real world documentation of you building something in plain sight of everyone, I think I would resonate with all those content formats. So I think instead of this or that, I think it's this and that, but with making sure that you are always resonating with that ideal target audience. Yeah,
and as you said, look, solo gives you that at least perception of being a thought leader in your space, being the expert.
Yeah.
Having guests gives you an opportunity to get an extended reach that you wouldn't get from just sharing it to your own networks. Couple of tips I would say if you're thinking of going down the route for solo episodes would be don't script it within an inch of its life.
Oh, God, no.
Again, practice makes perfect. So the first episode, as you've demonstrated, that you record on your own speaking is not going to be the best example of your work, but slow down is my advice. And I give it whenever we start working with somebody on their podcast. They usually talk at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's just slow down, slow the hell down, take a breath, calm down, be slow, enunciate every word. Like that word?
That was very good, very good. I liked it.
And for me, as I say, don't script it with an inch of its life, but I like to have a prop. So that could literally just be, a piece of paper, like a little postcard type piece of paper. And I'm going to have 3 to 5 bullet points on there. And maybe you need a little bit more than that when you're starting out. I don't know. It depends on the individual, but I just need a prompt, a word that then gets me talking about that particular subject. Like we're doing now, we've literally got 3 bullet points.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're confident enough in our subject matter of choice, podcasting, to talk about those subjects. Not everybody might feel like that to start with. So for me, just put some stuff on a card, 3 to 5 bullet points. You want to maybe put more than that on there, and it just give you that confidence. Don't be afraid to pause, look down, look at the card, look back up again, and carry on talking. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Pausing is actually a good thing to do for audio.
Yeah.
It is a good thing to do. To take that pause is part of the natural conversation that you're having with your audience.
Yeah, and also don't forget when you're recording a podcast, it is pre-recorded. So if you need to cut stuff out, if you stumble, if you flop, for whatever reason, you can start again. But also bear in mind that people listening are human beings as well. So they are not looking for, this is not a concise radio bulletin that's got to be 3 minutes long and it's got to be perfect and it's got to sound like that. It doesn't have to sound like an advert. It can have stumbles and ums and ers and mutterings, and maybe you are thinking, especially if you're documenting the journey, you might start having a conversation with yourself as you're talking about a podcast and go, oh, and then I did that, which now I think about it, it led me on to blah, blah, blah. People like that because human to human connection, they will bite into it. They're not tuning into your podcast because you're the next Chris Evans or the next Zoe Ball or the next Scott Mills necessarily. They're consuming your content because they get value from it. So as long as you're delivering that value, I think people will stick around for it, whether it be an interview, whether it be solo, whether it be a debate, whether it be a round table, whatever it may be. But always in your mind's eye, think about what's in it for that ideal listener. And that's something that we talk about on yourpodcastcourse.com. You can go check it out as one of the videos in getting really, really absolute crystal clear clarity on who your audience is and then making the content that's going to resonate best with that audience. If you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free, give us 5 stars, let us know. If you've also got a tip on how to get the best out of your podcast, whether it be a solo or a guest episode, please feel free on YouTube or on Spotify. Leave it in the comments. We love people getting in touch about the podcast. But from me and from the Podpreneur at Chisnall, we'll see you on the next pod. Cheers for your ears. Ta-da.
But if you are suitably inspired to want to start your own podcast,
yes,
you could go to Your Podcast Course.
Where can I go?
Yourpodcastcourse.com. And you could find out how to start, grow, and monetize your own podcast.
You could. In fact, I think you should.